Hi everybody, and thank you for joining me in this look at the feature animated movies coming out for the end of 2019. Why am I doing it for the end of 2019? Basically because there is a lot of really cool movies coming out, which I guess in feature animation is quite a big thing. There is always a heap of animation. There are a lot of animators always trying to get into animation. And while I like to focus a lot on small animation, because I like doing animation in general, I just want to focus on the feature animation which is coming out, and just for a big overview of talking about animation in general. My name is Kim, so I hope you guys sit back, relax, and enjoy this little look into the future as we look at the next 6 months for feature releases. So the first one coming out in August 14th is Angry Birds 2. So Angry Birds 2 is getting brought out by Rovio, and of course if you don't know, it always comes back. Angry Birds came out a few years ago now, a couple of years ago, came out with not a huge fanfare because it was thought of, as the Angry Birds game, which everybody knows, and it's like, oh yeah, it's a movie from that. But Rovio really done an incredible job on that. Of course, they teamed up with Columbia Pictures, Rovio Animation, Sony Pictures Animation, and Sony did a fabulous job with Angry Birds 1. I mean, if you look at the budget, they had a $73 million budget, which is a decent budget, but it made $352.3 million worldwide. So that is that's a good return on investment for Sony. And Rovio. So that's obvious. You look at the numbers, it's just like, yes, they had to make a second one. If you look at the short for the second one, actually it looks like the animation it looks fabulous. The idea of now the two enemies which were in one actually having to team up again to fight a third enemy. Like, the story's not that great, but then again, the first story was built off a game which is, as simple as let's fling something this way. So the premise is fairly simple. The story worked really great for the other one, for the first one, and it made a great return. So I'm looking forward to this one. I think Angry Birds 2 is probably going to be quite a surprise to be able to watch it. I love Sony's work. Sony is one of my favourite animation studios. Angry Birds 2 is definitely one to go see. The next one comes out in September 27th, which isn't that far away. And it's Abominable. Abominable? It's coming out from a collaboration of DreamWorks and Pearl Studios. Now, not many people would know Pearl Studios. Pearl Studios was originally set up by DreamWorks to be DreamWorks Oriental. So they were starting off they were looking at investing in China to get a studio there so that they could get feature films released there with a lot less stress. They originally started working on How to Train Your Dragon 2. They worked on Home and The Penguins of Madagascar before actually doing their first full feature there in Kung Fu Panda 3. So Kung Fu Panda 3 was the big one that got the DreamWorks Oriental branding. Since then, DreamWorks have pulled out of it, and it's become Pearl Studio itself. So it's its own entity into itself, and that is now spawned Abominable. I really like the look of Abominable when you look at the trailer. I think the style is really, really good. The characters have their own unique sort of look to them, and the snowman, the main protagonist, the Abominable snowman itself, really is quite appealing in its look. And if you look at the lore around it as well, like, there's some really great effects work. I think the storytelling within this looks really encouraging as well. The idea that Abominable has actually been in development since 2010, so it's nearly 10 years to get to a point where it is. The only thing I've really got concerns about with Abominable is the time now it's coming just after Smallfoot, which didn't make a huge splash in its release. So having another Yeti movie coming out this year, hopefully it doesn't deter Abominable, but I think there might be a bit of an impact about what happens for it. But I'm really looking forward to this. I think it's going to look amazing. We then get into October, so that's only one animated feature a month. In October 11, we will see the Addams Family. So this one's coming out from MGM, and with this they've also been working with Sinstite and Bron Creative. Now Bron has worked on features before, and they've done their own feature from Henchman. Henchman wasn't a big release, but it was still pretty, it's a pretty niche sort of market, and it's good that Bron got that out. But Nitrogen has been around for quite a long time. They are better known for Thomas the Tank Engine and Troll Hunters, if you've seen that on Netflix. But the biggest thing which they've been embroiled in has been Sausage Party. But, I mean, that hasn't stopped them. I still think they do quite amazing work for what they're doing. When you look at the trailer for Addams Family, for me, I'm not hugely encouraged by what it looks like. I think it does look like a direct-to-streaming movie. It doesn't look like it's a big budget feature film release. Like when you look at the environments in here, like the inside of the house and that, it's all fairly sparse. And very, if you watch Troll Hunters was really good for value for money, where I just kind of feel watching the Addams Family doesn't quite have the same atmospherics that goes along with some of the other contenders which it's got to go with. But being that it is based on an existing IP, the Addams Family is actually fairly old now for an old IP. Someone like me remembers it. I don't know if this one's going to go that well. It might be, for me, I don't have to see this one in the cinema. I'll be interested to see it when it comes out on streaming. But I don't know if the same kind of IP is going to translate to being current day as what the Addams Family was. Not one that I've got to see. After that, we're getting all the way down into November the 8th. And we're getting Arctic Justice, Thunder Squad. This is being brought out by a group called Entertainment Studios, and it's been animated by Assemblage Entertainment. Now, this one has boasting some really big British voice cast, including Jeremy Renner, Alec Baldwin, Heidi Klum, and John Cleese. Personally, I'm a huge John Cleese fan, so just off of that, that will be worth me going to see it. It comes out of an Indian animation studio based in Mumbai, which I hadn't really heard that much about before in Assemblage. They did work on Blinky Bill, the movie, and Norm of the North, neither of which were being huge movies. Norm of the North last year was a bit of a dark horse and didn't really launch into the stratosphere. It didn't get a huge reception for it. And Blinky Bill in the day was great for when it did come out, but also hasn't been a monstrous movie. But it is. But Arctic Justice is directed by Aaron Woodley, who also directed the 2016 movie Spark. It's also reported to have a $50 million budget. Again, this one, going back to Norm of the North, it's not a huge, I don't have huge expectations for this. It's probably going to hit its target market and audience. It'll probably, but it's not one that's really exciting me to have to go see this when you watch the trailer. So the big one coming out, which has a lot of high expectations about it, of course, is Frozen 2. And this is by Walt Disney's Animation Studios. With Frozen's box office coming in at, $1.27 billion, of course Frozen 2 was eventually going to have to come out. Officially announced in March 2015, so it's been 4 years in development, and it's been, it has to be the most anticipated movie for the year. My expectations, I think the visuals for this is going to be outstanding. Even when you look at the short, for the tech part of it, it's going to be amazing. The story, with 4 years of development, you'd expect the story's going to hit all the dot points that you need, and it's going to be a riveting story that's probably going to, have tears streaming down your face and everything that goes along with it. I've heard it been said before that a lot of Disney movies now are just too big to fail, and I expect that with Frozen 2 as well. I love number one. I think number one was a work of art when you watched it. It was crafted so well. There was some nice dynamics between the main characters. I think number one was a beautiful movie, and I expect that they've put as much heart into Frozen 2 as they did in 1. So I think that Frozen 2 is going to be another big one, and it's probably going to be another one that's rewriting the record books. But it's also going to be dealing with The Lion King, and I think The Lion King is probably going to take a lot of especially nomination contention. We'll probably have Frozen 2 and The Lion King will be the two movies which take most of the glory out of all the nominations for this year. Just want to quickly jump in here and say, if you're enjoying this, please leave a like. Make any comments, because I'd love to know what you guys are looking forward to. There's heaps of stuff which I'm sure everyone's going to have an opinion about, especially about animated features. But definitely leave your comments below, and let's get this discussion going. Then we get down to December 6th, where we get Playmobil the movie. It's being brought out by DGM and Studio Canal. This will work quite nicely. But the animation is getting done by a French company called On Animation. They've worked on some amazing movies before. They worked on The Little Prince, which was a brilliant story, and Moon, Guardian of the Moon, which again, it had such a beautiful style to it, and the color palette that went along with that story, and the storytelling and the character design for Moon. I really enjoyed that movie. But then you look at Playmobil, and it's almost like, you get the idea that it's Lego Movie 2 has the second part, which has already come out this year as well. So it's got such a lot of similarities to it that I think comparisons will be drawn between the two of them. But when you watch the trailer for Playmobil, it's almost like what was set up with the Lego animated series, like the way they animated. The big thing about the Lego movies was the animation style was definitely to stick with the realistics of how characters animated, how those little joints and 7 joints of rotation actually did work. Whereas when you watch the Playmobil trailer, you can see that they're bending them all over the place. You go, well, that's not the way plastic works. So for me, it does look a better quality than the animated Lego series, but I think there's going to be way too many comparisons between Playmobil, the movie, and the Lego movie. And since we've already had the Lego movie Part 2 come out this year, I just don't think this one's going to be a huge launch. I don't think it's probably going to get the recognition for how much that they've actually put into this movie. The next one which comes out is a stop motion in December 13, and it's Shaun the Sheep, Farmageddon. Coming out from Aardman. Now, the Shaun the Sheep movie itself came out quite a few years ago, but in 2015, Studio Canal announced that they were going to do a follow-up to the Shaun the Sheep movie, which is great. So it's now 4 years under their belt. In October 2016, they said that Shaun the Sheep 2 was coming. Pre-production started in January 2017. So really, it's only been 2 years of production to get to a point where they're kicking out Farmageddon, which is exciting. Again, this is, you really know what you're going to get with an Aardman movie. They do brilliant work. Stop motion in itself is a real craft. So there really is only a very few stop motion companies that do really great things, and Aardman's one of them. And I think Shaun the Sheep is going to be a crack up. It's going to land its market. It always does. I think it'll be fun to see, and I'll definitely go along and see it just because it is going to be the only stop motion of this year. And now what could be the biggest surprise of this year? I know it's now been pushed back all the way back to December 25, but Spies in Disguise is going to be coming out. Coming out from 20th Century Fox, but being done by Blue Sky Studios. Now this boasts, you know, a fairly big voice cast with both Tom Holland, who seems to be such a versatile actor and being used for nearly any animated, you know, teenage boy that they can be found, and then Will Smith, who's such a great actor in what he can do as well. Although it looks like they've de-aged him by about 20 years in Spies in Disguise. But it is being brought out by the other one of my favourite animation studios in the Blue Sky. And Blue Sky do, you know, really great over-the-top cartoony style animation, which is something which I love. So this Spies in Disguise has been built off of a short, Pigeon Impossible by Lucas Martel, and that came out 9 odd years ago. So it's going to be, it's had a long life of getting to where it is now, and it's going to be a long animated feature of 104 minutes. But I think this one might be probably the one to watch for this 3D space. I think it's going to be a beautiful movie that could end up either A, being a huge dark horse and doing a lot of good things, but of course the Christmas period is going to be a really stacked period for any feature to come out, so it might suffer from its release time being pushed back all the way into December, because December has also got to deal with, you know, Christmas movies as well as Star Wars movies. So I'm not sure about the release strategy for this, but it's going to be one that you're going to be want to see on a big screen. I think this one's going to be awesome. But talking about Christmas movies, this Klaus will be the one that I think is going to take the cake. I have been so excited for this. It has been in production for quite a few years, but it's been picked up by Netflix. Netflix have picked it up while it was in production, but it's been done by the SPA studio, or Sergio Pablos. The movie's been in development for years, but the trailer looks amazing. I know a bit of the background tech behind it. I'm super keen to see it. It is a traditional 2D animation release. Even though when you watch it, you go, my God, it looks so amazing. They've put a lot of work in the look for it, but it's a really neat twist on an origin story. And I think, you know, if you're not familiar with Sergio's work, he was supervising director on things like Tarzan, Hunchback of Notre Dame, and Treasure Planet. And he worked a lot for the design work on Despicable Me, as well as the Smurfs, Rio, and Smallfoot. So he's been around the industry a long time, and this has been like his pet project to get it up and running. And this is the one where I'd go for anything for this year. I would love to see this one out. If you've made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching. Please comment below and let me know what animated features you're going to be going to see in the cinema, or what you're looking at watching at home or wait for streaming. Until I see you all again next time, bye bye.